Shalom, Israel, Shalom, Shalom. Brother Naquam, watchman for Israel, coming back at you with these precepts and another cold cut, giving, of course, our honor and our glory to Yahweh by Shema Mashiach Malak Yabushai. Double honors to the elect elders of the house of David that's been in this truth for decades and decades, patiently waiting for the second coming of Hamashiach Malak Yabushai. A hearty, mighty Shalom to all of the mighty men of the Most High God who are out there in the highways and byways, pushing this truth, magnifying the ministry, and presenting their body as a living sacrifice. Shalom, shalom. Shalom to all of the men that may not be out there on the highways and byways as of yet, but they're working on it. They're getting built up in the spirit. They're praying. They're fasting. They're studying. They're being diligent and abounding in the work of the Lord. Shalom, shalom. Shalom to all of the Akwat out there, the sincere sisters out there, holding it down in the households, reverencing their husbands, being submissive and diligent, and moving in the spirit of our righteous foremothers. Shalom, shalom. And shalom to everybody tuning in live. Solomon McFadden, shalom. Emily Jones, Ancients New, Why Don't We? Don Israel, Kaya Williams, HBK Ent, Brother Believe, right? Let me get down. Rachel Ward, Louise Fambro, Michael Williams, K-Rock the Don, Natash, Shalom King, Tazar Bon Aparium, Daughter Zion, Sweet Styles, Tremaine Pearson, and everybody else tuning in, and that will tune in, Lord willing, Shalom. The topic of this cold cut is Dark Origins of St. Valentine's Day, Toxic Poison, and Death Angels. For those that are in the world, right now, this is probably the most so-called romantic day full of love, man. Full of love and romance. It's a day, according to the world, a day full of mirth, a day full of flowers and chocolates, a day full of bowing down to the beast, men giving their strength over to women, adultery going on, secret relationships, all types of madness is going on tonight, man. People spending money that they don't have. And God forbid that there's a brother in his truth with fringes on celebrating Valentine's Day, man. And I'm led to believe that there's maybe one or two out there. Now, Valentine's Day, Christmas, Sinmas, Thanksgiving, so-called July 4th, Memorial Day, remembering 9/11, Veterans Day, Columbus Day, all of these are customs of the world. And nowhere in the Bible did yahuwah tell us to celebrate Valentine's Day. Right now, I want to kick it off. Let's go to the book of and we're going to cover where Valentine's Day comes from, huh? And the dark history behind it. Don't you know that all of these customs that are enforced in Babylon the Great come from demonic dark activity? Right? Let's go to the book of Ecclesiasticus first. Right? Chapter 33 and 10. And people look forward to this day, man. If you don't get in a word, if you don't take your woman out or, get her something or, get her some chocolate, some jewelry, some flowers. Hey, a woman will divorce you, man. They'll run and slander your name. This is the day where the man has to bow down to the beast, man. And they exalt and glorify the woman. Right? Let's go to Ecclesiastes chapter 33. And for all you Christians that celebrate Valentine's Day, when did the Most High give us that day, man? The Lord said in Sirach chapter 33 and verse 7, it reads, why doth one day excel another, when as all the light of every day is in the year? Let me read it again. Why doth one day excel another, when as all the light of every day in the year is of the sun? So somebody may ask, well, how can one day be above another day? When the sun shines on every day should be treated the same because they all get the same amount of sunlight. That's what a carnal person would say. But then the Most High is going to break it down to you. By the knowledge of the Lord, they were distinguished, and he altered seasons and feasts. So yeah, even though the sun shines on every day, there is knowledge from on high to distinguish certain days from other days, right? Some of them, meaning some of these days, hath he made high days and hallowed them, and some of them hath he made ordinary days. What are your high days? The Sabbath, the Feast of Unleavened Bread. That's the whole high holy day in a week, Your Day of Atonement is a high day. Your memorial blowing of your trumpets is a high day. Purim, destruction of Nicanor, Day of Simon. These are all high days. Your new moon is a high day. When it's called a high day, there are certain instructions and ordinances that you have to keep on those days. They're set apart. That's what it means he hallowed them. When you read Leviticus, the 23rd chapter, the 29th chapter, and you had high holy days that were added throughout the year. I mean, throughout the scriptures. Purim was added during the time of Mordecai. Day of Simon, destruction of Nicanor, Feast of Dedication was established during the time of the Maccabees. So you have these high holy days, and you have an ordinances that go with it. It says, and some of them hath he made ordinary days. What's an ordinary day? So-called February 14th, man. It's an ordinary day. The Most High didn't command you to do anything on this day. He didn't say go to Jared's, go to Zales. You know? Buy your woman a heart and chocolates. And once we go through the history, you're going to find out if you celebrate Valentine's Day, you hate blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, man. If you celebrate Valentine's Day, you hate your own people. If you celebrate Valentine's Day, you hate Yahweh, Bashim Yahushai, man. And you hate the Most High's people. And by default, you hate yourself. See, Esau, and we're we're going to go into, he makes it all about just love and romance. We're going to show you what this thing is about, man. This is just an ordinary day. And there was a time when we used to do these things, man. We used to do so-called Christmas and, get into this so-called worldly spirit. But by the grace of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, he called us out of this thing, man. He called us out of the world to be able to do the work of the Most High, right? And here's what this is going into. This 1 Peter chapter 4:1. For as much then as the Mashiach hath suffered for us in the flesh, arm yourselves likewise with the same mind. For he that hath suffered in the flesh hath ceased from sin. So Yahushua does not sin. He ceased from sin, right? That he should no longer, it's like that he no longer should live the rest of his time in the flesh to the lust of men, but to the will of the Most High. And we have to be in that same spirit, man. If we're being armed with the same mind as Yahushua, and if we're suffering in the flesh under these curses and infirmities and pain and captivity, we have to be in the same spirit as our Lord. The Lord said, arm yourself with the same mind, right? Meaning you have to have a certain mentality in this truth, man. They're going to have Valentine's Day. They had it at the plantation I was at, man. They put the little chocolates up, right? They set them all up. Oh, do you want some chocolate? No, I don't want no chocolates. Oh, well, what are you doing? What are you doing for Valentine's Day? Ain't none of your business, man. I didn't say it like that, but I said what I had to say, and I kept it moving. It was an extremely, extremely, extremely small conversation, right? So Esau, he want to talk about Valentine's Day. They want to talk about what you doing with your old lady, and I'm gonna take mine out to. Hey, I don't want to hear about that, man. The Lord told us to arm ourselves with the same mind as our Lord, man. That he should no longer live the rest of his time in the flesh to the lust of men, but to the will of the Most High. So either you're living your life for the flesh to the lust of men, or you're living your life to the will of the Most High. If you're celebrating Valentine's Day, you're doing the flesh of the lust of men, right? But if you're keeping the high holy days, you're living to the will of the Most High. And there's only two types of people in the world: the men that serve the Most High and the men that serve the flesh, right? Verse 3, for the time past of our life may suffice us to have wrought the will of the Gentiles, when we walked in lasciviousness, lust, excess of wine, reveling, banqueting, and abominable idolatries. So there was a time in our life before we came into this truth when we used to live like the men of the world. Or if you're a woman, you used to live like the women of the world. We didn't come into this truth and from the third heaven. We didn't descend out of chariots, man. And we weren't born into this thing. And we used to live the life like these men in the world, man. And the Lord tell you what kind of things they did. They went to lasciviousness, just evil, sexual deviancy. Lust is covetousness. You can lust after money. People lust after drugs. People lust after women. People lust after materialistic things. People lust after other demons. Excess of wine. You know, people they getting drunk tonight, man. Right? They might pour a glass of wine. You might have a Jake. You might put the rose petals, leading into the house. Oh, it's Valentine's Day. And he been putting aside damn $150 out his check every 2 weeks, man. For the past 6 months. I'm going to surprise my old lady. I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that and I'm going to do this, man. So he go by the rose petals. So when she come in from working at the Family Dollar or the Dollar Tree or, the Walmart or wherever his woman work at, she work at the office, she come in and she see the rose petals and, they lead up to the bedroom and it's a bit, that's what they do, man. It might be a little champagne right there. They might play some music and they start drinking and getting drunk, man, and doing God knows what in the name of the so-called white man. So you have excess of wine on this day, reveling, right? We're going to cover that. Banqueting, that's you taking your woman out to eat, man. Oh, we got a Valentine's date. I'm taking out the Ruth Chris. I'm breaking bank on my woman, right? I'm taking out over here to the best spot in town. And then I gotta get a reservation. It's Valentine's Day. Do y'all have room for two? She putting herself together. You putting your little oil on and your cologne, and y'all driving and y'all going to go get the damn reservation, man. And everybody in there, guess what spirit they in? They're in the spirit of Valentine's Day. They're in the spirit of serving the beast and the so-called white man. So that's banqueting right there. And abominable idolatries. Because you got Jake sitting up there talking about, damn, Cupid didn't get me this year. Maybe next year Cupid got me. You're waiting on Cupid to show you love. Damn, Cupid, you missed again, man. Jake, where's that at? I had this radio. You're into Cupid, man. Right? Oh, man, how come Cupid? You want a little... That's why this system is off, man. This society is nothing but profanation and evil. So Cupid is a staple of so-called Valentine's Day. And it goes back to the Greek god Eros. The Roman version of Eros is what you know as Cupid. And he's always some prepubescent or a toddler. And he's always naked. And he flies at uncontrollable speeds. He's very aerodynamic. And he can find you, and he knows your feelings and your emotions, and when you're lonely, and when you're isolated, and when you're down bad, and when you have heartache, and he knows those things. So he comes on time with his bow and his arrow, and he shoots you in your damn butt, man. Of all places. And then you find love. This is what Esau, I got to break it down. This is the way that he's into it. So I have to say it how it is. You find love when you get an arrow in your damn butt, man. That's what Esau's into. That's his form of love. The only way to find love is when you have a boy, put something in your butt, man. And that's what Esau's into. So when people are into this Cupid stuff, you're into sodomy, right? You're into lust. You're into idolatry. You're into evil. So the Romans' Cupid was the equivalent of the Greek god Eros, the origin of the word erotic. You see that? So you're serving erotic fantasies and erotic lust. If you look up the word erotic, right? Because that's what this society's into, man. Jake, you taking your woman out, you're hoping that, things go well that night so you could, do things, and, people going out, they looking for love, and you got lonely people, they going to the mall or they going to these places hoping to find singles, and they on dating sites. I will not be lonely next Valentine's Day. So they on damn Match.com and this website and Tinder, and it's nothing but erotic behavior, right? So I'm not going to read all of this, but you can see it: erotic, relating to or tending to arouse a sexual desire or excitement, huh? You know? So that's what this day is about. It's about, and erotic goes back to the Greek god Eros, which is a so-called white man who's into lust and all types of evil, man, on his websites, his social media, books and clubs and bars, and he's into Eros. When you're into Valentine's Day, you're bowing down to Eros because Eros or Cupid is one of the top figures of Valentine's Day, man. That's why First Peter chapter 4 and 3, it says, and abominable idolatries, right? Let's go to the book of First John. Right, so this is a filthy world, man. The Lord said the whole world lieth in wickedness, man. So people don't know what they're into, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot more I want to get into, man. Right, First John chapter 5 and 19. And we know that I'll start at 18. We know that whosoever is born of the Most High sinneth not, but he that is begotten of the Most High keepeth himself, and that wicked one toucheth him not. Who's the wicked one? The spiritual demon Satan. And a lot of people, they want to get touched by the wicked one, man. They want to get touched by let me pull up Cupid, right? Let's see, Cupid, Valentine's Day, right? So you want to be touched. The Bible says, let me read this again. We know that whosoever is born of the Most High sinneth not, but he that is begotten of the Most High keepeth himself, and that wicked one toucheth him not. Again, you have people being touched by the wicked one. So here's the, Cupid Valentines. And you can look all this stuff up on your own, right? I'm sure a lot of brothers, you know this. According to Roman mythology, Cupid was a god born of Mercury, the messenger of the gods, and Venus, the goddess of love, armed with a bow and arrows. There on your Valentine's Day bingo card for a reason. He dealt in love and passion, forcing it. Right? He dealt with love and passion, forcing it, because it's never optional, man. And he kind of just do what he want to do. He travels throughout the world, and he does his own thing, man. There's no regulation. He's not held accountable. He just goes around and commits lewdness. So forcing it upon his victims with the prick of an arrow. So I want to click this. Right? So people are getting touched by the wicked one. So this from so-called last year, right? Why is Cupid the symbol of Valentine's Day? Right? So she don't know. I mean, she's an Edomite, but people don't know that they're bowing down to Eros, the Greek god of evil sexual lust and concupiscence and fantasies and lewd behavior and erotic darkness, man. It's not just about, I bought my woman flowers. It's not that bad. They were on sale. They were $14.99. Hope she likes it. See, people don't know the depths of the system. This is a very demonic kingdom. And each one of these days, you're bowing down to a false god. Right? Let me get this precept real quick in Exodus, chapter 23 and 13. Right? Let's go to Exodus chapter 23. It's Exodus chapter 23 and 13. And all things that I have said unto you, be circumspect, and make no mention of the name of other gods, neither let it be heard out of thy mouth. Right? Meaning you can't be getting that down with this system. Huh? You can't be calling upon these gods and Cupid. And now Valentine is not a so-called god, right? We're going to go into that. That's actually a Jake. Slack you. He was a Jake that was put to death. during the time of the Roman Empire, right? Before the fall of the Western Roman Empire, and really at the beginning, somewhat to the middle of the so-called Christian persecution, there was a brother, right, in Israelite. We'll go into that history too after we deal with this defiled Cupid situation. There was a brother that was put to death for not bowing down to the Roman Empire, right, on his so-called date, right? And we're going to go into what he has to do to this day and how did they all intertwine. Okay, so the Most High said, don't make mention of the name of these other gods. Let's go to Acts chapter 14. I want to go back to that that article, right? This Acts chapter 14 and verse 15. And I'm gonna start at 15. And saying, sirs, why do ye these things? And when you read this account, they were going to glorify Paul and Barnabas, man. They were going to give them sacrifices or make sacrifices unto them. They thought one was Mercury and they thought one was Jupiter. Now, Mercury is the so-called father. We just went into it of Cupid. So I'm going to actually read verse 12. And they called Barnabas Jupiter and Paul Mercurius because he was the chief speaker. Now you go into Mercurius, right? Let's go into it. It says Hermes. Okay, because Hermes is the Greek version and Mercury is the Roman version. All right. So it says Mercurius, herald of the gods when he was the messenger, a Greek deity called by the Romans Mercury. But when you go into it, Mercury is the so-called father. This is all a fable, but this is what they teach. He's the so-called father of Cupid, right? So they actually called this brother, one of the apostles, the name of a so-called god. And they didn't like it. They didn't like being related to Cupid and Mercury. They knew about those things, man. And we're going to show you how the apostles reacted when they were being called by these false gods and being tied into all of these Greek deities that Jake is into now, trying to find love, man. So let me jump down. Verse 13. Then the priest of Jupiter, which was before the city, brought oxen and garlands into the gates and would have done sacrifice with the people. And when the apostles Barnabas and Paul heard of, they rent their clothes and ran in among the people, crying out and saying, sirs, why do ye these things? So why do people buy chocolates, man? Why do you do these things? Why are you buying flowers? Why are you buying expensive jewelry? Why are you spending money you don't have? Why are you further fueling this man's economy, man? And serving the spiritual demon Satan? Paul said, why are you tying me in with Mercury and Cupid and Jupiter? Why do you do these things? Right? We also are men of like passions with you, and preach unto you that ye should turn from these vanities unto the living God, which made heaven and earth and the sea and all things that are therein. So this is a commandment that we should turn from what? From these vanities. Valentine's Day, St. Patrick's Day, Halloween, Christmas, Thanksgiving, Memorial Day, Columbus Day. Turn from these vanities and serve Yahuwah by Hashem Yahushai, man. So let me go back to this. See that? So Cupid got a mailbox. So that means Cupid is behind that wall doing God knows what, reading letters and trying to be the matchmaker. They got a song called Cupid, man. I'm not going to sing the lyrics. You know what song I'm talking about. They said Cupid doesn't lie. But then they said, but you won't know until you give it a try. And Jake, you know, you singing that and you calling upon Cupid and, you know, you play that when you romancing with your woman and you getting into it. You start moving around and dancing, man. Like I said, if you know the song, you know the song, right? They say Cupid, that's just the hook. Cupid doesn't lie. But guess what? They reaffirm you and say, hey, look, you won't know until you give it a try, man. So, Jake, your mind is all polluted. Your mind is all bad. All right? Okay, so let me jump down. Cupid is forever linked to Valentine. Then they got the Cupid Shuffle. There's another a song and a dance that go into the Cupid Shuffle. I'm not going to do the dance or sing the song, you know? They tell you to go a certain direction a few times, then go that way a few times. Then you got to do the damn Cupid Shuffle, man. So now you dancing in the name of the so-called white man and his false gods, right? But let me read this. Cupid is forever linked to Valentine's Day, but how much do you know about this chubby, mythical matchmaker? As Valentine's Day approaches, there's one figure you'll probably see everywhere you look. Yeah, if you go to the grocery store, you might see him at the bank. You know, you might see him at your job. You might see him on a billboard somewhere. You'll see Cupid all over the place, right? You won't be able to miss him while planning Valentine's Day ideas and browsing for the perfect Valentine's Day gifts and Valentine's Day flowers. That's right. We're talking about that winged warrior of romance. So they kind of big this thing up, man. They call him the winged warrior of romance. They gave him a flattering title. You get this little boy who forces his arrow below the waist on you. They gave him a flattering title, the winged warrior of romance. Cupid, armed with his trusty. That's what this place got to be destroyed, man. They're trying to normalize evil. Armed with his trusty bow and arrows, the Valentine Cupid zips around the clouds, eager to make love connections wherever he goes. All right, but how much do you really know about this liaison of love? Right? So let me jump down. So why is he a baby? Well, I'm going to tell you why he's a baby. I don't know what they're about to tell you. I didn't pre-read this article. He's a baby because the so-called white man is into pederasty. Okay, let's go to the word pederasty. All right. Pederasty in ancient Greece. All right. Remember, Cupid goes back to the so-called Greek god Eros. All right. Now, pederasty we're going to read it. Pederasty in ancient Greece was a socially acknowledged romantic relationship between an older male called an Pederastes and a younger male called eromenos, usually in his teens. Now, again, what's the Greek god Cupid called? He's called Eros. So younger men were called eromenos. That's why Cupid is a young boy, okay, who is sent to really pop these older Greek men to find love with other boys, man. That's what it's really about. But Jake, you don't know that. You're just into this man's system. This is one of the dark aspects of so-called Valentine's Day. We went into that etymology of eros. That's the so-called Greek god of love. All right. Roman name Cupid. Younger men that were being forced by older men were called eromenos. It was characteristic of the archaic and classical periods. Right. And I'm not going to do an in-depth breakdown and go into this, because it's nothing but evil and wickedness. Let's get a precept. All right. Let's go to the book of Leviticus, chapter 20. 13. So, people that send the so-called Valentine's Day, what are you really into, man? First of all, you're deep into sodomy and you don't know it. You're deep into white supremacy because now the so-called white man has to show you how to find love, right? You're conditioned as a child to engage in, and I remember growing up, man, in so-called elementary school, they had a Valentine's Day candy set up, and you got to take some and put it in the bag. You had the little necklaces and the Smarties and the folly candy, man. And they got little Cupids all around, and you're taught psychologically and subconsciously to think that the so-called white man is the only one that could give you love, man. You know, this is nothing but witchcraft and sorcery. So Valentine's Day it's a lot of evil embedded in it, man, and it's deeper under the surface. Sorcery, witchcraft, pride, idolatry, sodomy, rebellion, evil, lust, concupiscence, reveling. All this, they all go hand in hand, man. This is a filthy, nasty day. Leviticus 20:13. If a man, Salakia, what happened? Okay, Salaki, bear with me. Okay, Khan. All right, Salaki reads, if a man also lie with mankind, as he lied with a woman, both of them have committed an abomination. They shall surely be put to death. Their blood shall be upon them. Right? So a man with man is nothing but evil, man. Let's go to Isaiah 3. Right? Let's go to Isaiah chapter 3 and 9. Isaiah chapter 3 and 9. The show of their countenance doth witness against them. They declare their sin as Sodom. They hide it not. Woe unto their soul, for they have rewarded evil unto themselves. So you got people who don't hide it, man. You know, I'm not going to go too deep into it, but they're bold about it. They're doing things in public. They're holding hands. They have flags wrapped and caped around them. They're begging for more days and more months to be solely dedicated to that wicked lifestyle. And that's what the Greeks were into. That's what Cupid is about. Like I said, I didn't read this article, but I'm led to believe they're going to lie on this and tell you some other reason of why he's a baby. He's a baby because the so-called white man, as an adult called Pederasty, in the ancient Greek lifestyle, which is the beginning of white civilization, according to modern-day academia and scholarship, he was popping young Edomite boys, right? And now you have the bots and the madness coming out, right? Just like that. So let's go back to this. Okay, so here's Pederasty. Pederasty sounds familiar, right? Pederasty in ancient Greece was a socially acknowledged, I'm going to read this again, romantic relationship between an older male, we read that, Erastes, and a younger male, Eromenos. That's where you get the word eros from. And eros, again, is the Greek version of Cupid. So the young boy was the one in his teens, or a young boy getting jammed up by older Edomites. It was the characteristic of the archaic and classical period. The influence of Pederasty on Greek culture of these periods was so prevalent that it has been called, look at this, the principal cultural model for a free relationship between citizens. Meaning what? That was the main thing. That was the big deal back then. It was the main lifestyle. Like a man with a woman now is the main thing, or it used to be. The main thing back then was an older man, maybe 40, 30, whatever, and a young boy, maybe 15, maybe 10. That was the big deal, man. It was a common thing. You can see it right there, right? But yet the so-called white man can make it, right? Let me read on. Some scholars locate its origin in initiation rituals. Look at that. They had initiation rituals, particularly rites of passage on Crete, where it was associated with entrance into military life and the religion of Zeus. You see that? You see that? In order to join the so-called white man's military, guess what you had to do? Right? Guess what you had to do? Back in the time of ancient Greeks, you had to get down. That's why now, even in the so-called white man's military, there is actual stories of that same spirit going on in the Army, the Navy predominantly, the Coast Guard, right? The Air Force. There's a lot of that same spirit because, America is nothing but a revived version of Greece and Rome. All right. So I'm not going to read this whole thing, but it pretty much goes into abuse between an older man and a woman. All right. Let me jump down. Look at this madness. Hold on. I got to read this. It was no formal existence. It's like it has no formal existence in the Homeric epics, right? We know about Homer, and seems to have developed in the late 7th century. It's been there, right? As an aspect of Greek homosocial culture. So this guy, he want to give it all these fancy terms, man. Right? Homosocial. Right? Same relationships that are not of a romantic nature or a friendship. All right? That's that Catholic Church spirit. Oh, he's just the altar boy. Right? Oh, he's just down. He's just confessing his sins in that box. Right? So homosocial culture, which was characterized also by athletic and artistic nudity. That's what a lot of these guys in the NBA and the NFL, they be doing things, man. They be taking pictures on Sports Illustrated, holding it down basketball naked. The women be swinging a baseball bat. They be naked because it's nothing but that Greek, erotic, homosocial, corrupt kingdom, man. People playing volleyball and damn, they body is all out. Men got tights on, and it's nothing. It's a lot of evil and wickedness, man. You go to the gym, and they got old Edomites. They're just out there, man. So this is Greece. That's why it says, which was characterized also by athletic and artistic nudity. It also delayed marriage for aristocrats. Symposia, right? See, that's that banqueting. Look at that. Symposia. In ancient Greece, the symposium was the part of a banquet that took place after the meal when drinking for pleasure was accompanied by music, dancing, recitals, and conversation. Right? So the Most High said, come out of that abominable idolatry and banqueting. And the social seclusion of women. What does this mean? So the Greeks, they was into the social seclusion of women. So what was really going on? This so-called white man don't want to be with no woman, man. Don't let them fool you. Don't let these celebrities, they call them celebrity heartthrobs, and these guys, and hey, don't let them fool you, man. They're only with these women just to procreate. They're really into these men, man, or they're into boys. They might put on a facade and it's put on the front, but they putting on a woman dress when a woman not looking, putting on a underwear and bra, into all types of vile behavior. Why are we bringing all this out? Because all this goes back to Cupid. This is why Cupid is a baby, because it goes back to Greek pederasty. All right, so let's jump down. So they ask, why is Cupid a baby? Okay, see, they kind of going into it. I'm not going to read the entire page, but you can look it up on your own, right? The Valentine Cupid, you can easily call to mind, is an interpretation of Eros, the Greek god of love. He appeared as a handsome youth in early art and poetry, but by the Hellenistic period, which spanned from 323 to 31 BCE, he morphed into the chubby winged child. So they start waxing worse. He went from a teenager to a child that we know and love today, representing Eros as a child and subordinate to his mother, is a way of containing or limiting the power that love was thought to have over us. All right. So what does Eros has to do with Cupid? right? So they're the same thing, right? They go into the same thing. Who is the Cupid god? Why is Cupid associated with romance? Let's see. In the original Greek myths, Eros played with the emotions of both gods and mortals, and not always in the nicest of ways. In one story, he caused the so-called god Apollo to fall in love with a nymph. Daphne then made sure the love was unrequited. In other stories, love turned dangerous. So he was causing confusion. Just into lust, man. Cupid is not an innocent so-called white baby. He's actually a demonic evil spirit that breeds confusion and madness. Right? This dark streak could perhaps be traced back to Eros' mother. Right? Aphrodite became jealous. Eros fell in love and tricked Eros into putting a spell on a woman. Right? So, that's what that's going into. Why does Cupid have wings? Why you have wings. And these are boys. Right? These are little boys. Look at this, with a damn lewd, what is that? Bra, damn strap on, man. Like a bra strap, right? So that's what they got on, man. And they got this big heart covering their nakedness, man. Let's go to the book of Romans, chapter 1. Right? Let's go to Romans chapter 1. Precept on that, man. This is a sick, vile kingdom. All right, Romans chapter 1. We're going to be uncut about it. We're not going to beat around the bush or sugarcoat anything. Romans chapter 1, and I'm going to start at verse 23. And change the glory of the uncorruptible God into an image made like to corruptible man. That's that Cupid man boy. They take the image of the Most High, Yahuwah Bashem Yahushai, and then they turn him into a little boy, a corruptible man. And to birds, so they'll give them wings, and to four-footed beasts and creeping things. Wherefore the Most High also gave them up to the uncleanness through the lust of their own hearts, to dishonor their own bodies between themselves. So that's what the Most High did. The Most High gave our people up to uncleanness, gave them up to lust, gave them over to follow these gods and to be blinded to not even know what you're worshiping. That's why John 4 says that we worship, or ye worship, ye know not what. We know what we worship, for salvation is of the Jews. All right, let's get that. John 4 and 22, ye worship, ye know not what. Because I guarantee about 95% of the people that celebrate Valentine's Day are Christians. And they'll go to church on Sunday, rather the Jehovah's Witness or Baptist or Methodist or Episcopalian. They'll be on church on Sunday thinking that they're serving the Most High, but they're bowing down to the so-called white man. They don't know what they're worshiping. Ye worship, ye know not what. People don't know how deep they're into this man's system, how they're into pederasty. They advocate pederasty when you're into Valentine's Day. You advocate men dealing with boys. You advocate sodomy, right? And they're the same thing. You advocate rebellion, white supremacy, lust, confusion, sorcery. People don't know what's going on in this thing. They have no idea what's going on. Ye worship, ye know not what. We know what we worship, for salvation is of the Jews. Right? Let's go to Ephesians chapter 5. All right, let's go to Ephesians chapter 5. And then I want to go into actually where the name Valentine comes from. All right. Ephesians chapter 5 and 5. For this ye know, that no whoremonger, nor unclean person, nor covetous man, who is an idolater. People covered in jewelry, chocolates, flowers. You covered in fancy clothes, dates, reservations, right? Valet parking, putting a damn ring in a wine glass and a muffin, and proposals, and people are getting married, and oh, he proposed to me. They're saying yes. It's a whole bunch of that, man. People getting on one knee, to propose to the woman. So no nor covetous man who is an idolater hath any inheritance in the kingdom of the Most High. So if you're into this place, you don't have an inheritance in the kingdom, right? You have an inheritance in this world. Let no man deceive you with vain words. So don't let people tell you this is just about romance and love. Let no man deceive you with vain words. For because of these things cometh the wrath of the Most High upon the children of disobedience. Be ye not, be not ye, therefore partakers with them. So we don't have to celebrate these days, man. Guess what? We got the new moon coming up, February 19th at sundown. Every day is a day to show love to your woman, man. You don't have to wait for the so-called white man to give you a day to treat your woman well, or, whatever the case may be, man. We have new moons. We have Sabbath days. We have our own feast days. We have our own holy days. We don't have to be a partaker of the so-called white man system. It's not just one day to show your woman love, man. For you brothers that's married. And you don't have to let the so-called white man give you the date. Okay, February 14th. If you didn't do it now, you got marriages that was falling apart. You got adultery going on, but they're forced by Cupid to try to make things right on that day, man. Because the so-called white man told them this is the day of love. So the Most High said otherwise. In Ephesians 5:7, it says, be not ye therefore partakers with them. For ye were sometimes darkness, but now are ye light in the Lord. Walk as the children of the light. For the fruit of the Spirit is in all goodness and righteousness and truth, proving what is acceptable unto the Lord. So we have to see what's acceptable to the Most High. We have to dig into the history. We have to go in depths into these days and figure out the dark history behind their origins. If we understand that the system is defiled and corrupt, why would their days be righteous? Why would the origins of Easter or the origins of St. Patrick's Day or the origins of Christmas, why would they have any type of light to it when this is a demonic, filthy kingdom? So you got to prove what is acceptable to the Lord. You got to put things to the test. That's what the word prove means. It means to test things. You got to test these days. You got to look into it. Okay, is this acceptable? Okay, is this a man or is this a Most High? What is this day really about? Proving what is acceptable unto the Lord, and have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather reprove them. So you gotta check people, man. And no, look, I don't do that. And no, that's off. Right? That's a sin. That's not in the Bible. For it is a shame even to speak of those things which are done of them in secret. So you should be ashamed to speak about those things, man. Right? That's a big deal. Let's go to Ecclesiasticus. Right? Let's go to chapter 4. Right? Let's go to Ecclesiasticus. I'm going to go a little bit more in that article. Right? Then I want to go to the next thing, Lord willing. All right, Ecclesiasticus chapter 4 and 25. And no wise speak against the truth, but be abased or abashed of the error of thine ignorance. So we should be ashamed, man, that we used to get deep into this day. If you did, and some form of fashion, rather you're a child, or rather you ignorantly did it as an adult, or rather you found out about it today. And you're finding out that you got to turn away from it, man. This is we gotta repent for getting into Valentine's Day, because we didn't know how deep this thing was going, man. The Lord said, but be abashed of the error of thine ignorance. Okay, so this says, why does Cupid have wings? Okay, so they could fly, right? Obviously. How did Cupid become the Valentine's Day mascot? Right? So I'm not going to read that, but now you got Cupid all over. See, he used to be a boy, a young boy for the so-called white man. But then around the time of Alexander the Great, they turned him into a little boy. Right? They turned him into a little boy. And that's what those creeps do. When you start getting older, hitting puberty, them creeps, they don't want to deal with you no more, because now you're becoming a man. They want you when you're a little boy. So this was not enough. They say he's too much like a man. I need him. They're so demonic and so vile and so filthy and profane. They say, look, when you start growing a little, your voice get a little bit deeper, and you hit that puberty, they cast you away and you move on to the next young boy. So that's why the gradualism happened between the image of Cupid, from him being a young teen like this, to him being just a baby, right? So gotta have him as a baby, and we need it, and it is what it is, right? Let's go to 2 Maccabees chapter 4, right? Let's go to 2 Maccabees chapter 4 and verse 15. So we're covering this day through the spirit and power of Yahuwah Bashem Yahushai, that you may know how wicked and evil and corrupt this man's system is. All right, 2 Maccabees chapter 4 and 15. I'm going to start at 13. Now, such was the height of Greek fashions and increase of heathenish manners through the exceeding profaneness of Jason, that ungodly wretch and no high priest. Because Jason, Menelaus, you had a lot of wicked Israelites. It's like during the time of the Greek Empire, who were getting paid and actually paying for the priesthood and getting paid to keep our people in sin. They're no better than your modern day pastors. They're no better than T.D. Jakes and Creflo Dollar and Al Sharpton. Their job is to keep us in this man's system and get into these Greek fashions. That the priest, 2 Maccabees 4 and 14, that the priest had no courage to serve any more at the altar, but despising the temple and neglecting the sacrifices, hastened to be partakers of the unlawful allowance and the place of exercise after the game of discus called them forth. Right, so they were getting into discus, man. You know what discus is when you watch the Olympics, and that guy, he got the thing that looked like a frisbee. He spins around in his tights and he launches it as far as he can. But during the time of the Greeks, they were literally naked, right? That's what the word gymnasium means. It means to work out naked. So they were naked, spinning around, throwing that disc in the air, man. And Jake started getting into that thing. That's why Jake is into bodybuilding. You got those guys that do this all day, and they got them they got a damn Speedo on, injecting anabolic steroids in their arm, veins, and sitting there doing this for the so-called white man who's the judge. You got some little damn 30-year-old Edomite, some creep, holding up a card. Now that's a 9. I get this guy a 9. He's big and he's black. But he didn't pose like the other guy. Give him a 9. I'll get this guy a 10. Look at him. Look at those quads. And Jake is sitting up there, right? Being like the damn so-called white man. They make you turn around and put the damn chalk on your hands and do all types of strange activities, man. So Jake, you're still into this man's system. You're deep into this man's world. Got the so-called white man giving you a damn scorecard, man. Let's read on. 2 Maccabees 4 and 15. Not setting by the honors of their fathers, but liking the glory of the Grecians best of all. You see that? So the Lord said, our people like the glory of the Grecians. We're into Cupid. We're into Valentine's Day. We're into all of the ways of the so-called white man. We think that's the best way of all. Not knowing that we have a heritage, a nationality, our own customs, our own ordinances, our own laws, our own scriptures to govern us and guide us. You understand? Through the spirit and power of Yahuwah Bashem Yahushai, man. But that's not enough for Jake. They want to be like Esau. Verse 16. By reason whereof sore calamity came upon them. You see what happened when you follow the so-called white man? Sore calamity comes upon you. For they had them to be their enemies and avengers, whose custom they followed so earnestly, and unto whom they desired to be like in all things. So, Jake, you want to be like the so-called white man in all things. He say Valentine's Day, you get right into it, and you don't question it. And it is what it is. Now, another aspect of so-called Valentine's Day, Saint Valentine is an actual Jake, right? It's hard. I spent some time. I didn't take too much time. We did one on so-called Christmas. Now, this Russian icon, not to digress, is almost $2,700. This one is almost $7,000, right? And we know why. $4,000. You think Jake is going to spend $4,000, $6,000 on a Russian icon, showing that the so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native American man are the true biblical Israelites according to the Most High God, displayed in archaeology and further in artwork throughout Eastern Europe? No, he's not going to spend money on that, man. Jake, you done spent your money today. You went to Jared's, Zales, 14 carats, 18 karat. You bought a ring, a necklace, a negligee, a bracelet, and a damn red bottle for your woman, man. You bought her a Birkin bag. That's 10K right there. You bought her a Birkin bag. You know, you might have took out, like I said, the best spot in town. She went lobster. Baby, it's on me. Now, get what you want. She turned the menu to the back. Lobster, $49.99. You sitting up there rubbing the back of your head. She's sitting up there clapping. You thinking about your money. And shit, it's just the day of lust. Right? So look at this money they spend, man. This is a big deal. Nevertheless, you have Russian icons of Saint Nicholas. You had Russian icons of Saint Valentine. Now, a lot of them now, they look like Edomites. He's known as Saint Valentine the Martyr. And it's hard to find a brother. See, this is supposed to be Saint Valentine getting put to death. And we're going to go into that history. Right? It's hard to find a brother. You can find some of Saint Nick, you know, and see this one, he got somewhat brown skin. But we know that's not like the best icon, but you know, brown skin, woolly hair characteristics. Right? So we know Saint Valentine was a brother. All right, he was a Jake. Now we're going to show you what this day is about. All right, and why Valentine. We went into the Roman incorporation behind it of Cupid and the Greek god Eros and Pederasty, but also the deep dark history of martyrdom of Saint Valentine. Now, for those that don't know, we are the saints, right? We're the saints of Yahuwah, Bashim Yahushua. So an Edomite can't be a saint. A Moabite can't be a saint. Hamite can't be a saint, right? This Psalms chapter 148 and 14. He also exalted the horn of his people, the praise of all his saints, even of the children of Israel, a people near unto him, praise ye the Lord. So the Most High said that the saints are the children of Israel, the so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native American men, women, and child. All right, let's go to Psalms chapter 50. All right, Psalm chapter 50. Just to clarify, Psalm chapter 50 and 5, here's what Yahushua said, or he's going to say when he makes his second coming. Gather my saints together unto me, those that have made a covenant with me by sacrifice. So this chapter goes into Yahushua's return. He's going to tell an angel, gather the only ones he's going to gather. And this is a cut to you Christians who say all people could be gathered and saved or raptured or whatever verbiage you want to use. The Most High is going to gather his saints, and it specifies the saints are those that made a covenant with by sacrifice. Read Exodus the 24th chapter, right, and see who made a covenant with the Most High by a sacrifice. So we're the saints. So there's no way in hell Saint Valentine could be an Edomite. We just want to put that out there. Now let's go into this man's history, because the Most High said, let's go to Sirach chapter 5 real quick. Here's what Yahuwah Bashim Yahushua said concerning history, and just concerning our heritage, and really it's our history, because Saint Valentine was killed, And if you he was killed in righteousness. He was martyred. He died in the truth, not denouncing Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. He was a brother. So if you celebrate Valentine's Day, you hate your own people and you're into pederasty, right? Just being as transparent as we can about it. If you celebrate Valentine's Day, you hate your brother and you're into pederasty and idolatry and coonery. It's really you're a coon, a sellout, an evil man. All right. Sirach chapter 5 and 15. Be not ignorant of anything in a great matter or a small. Right. So there are things that you have to know. There are things that you may think it's minuscule, and maybe I really don't have to know that it's just a date. It's just some history, and maybe it doesn't matter. No, it does matter. You have things that are great matters, prophecies, and in-depth breakdowns of particular things that you should be well equipped with on a level of knowledge. So you want to have a well-rounded biblical education, okay? History, geography, Greek, Hebrew, most importantly, the laws, the statutes, the commandments, right? Then you got the prophecies. You have the milk, you have the bread, you have the honey, you have the wine, you have the meat, right? You have the chronology and the timelines. You have names, you have accounts. These are all things that you want to be well equipped with, especially brothers that teach on the highways and byways. If you're on the forefront, you want to tap into that, man. So the Lord said, be not ignorant in anything in a great matter or a small. So we're going to go into this. So we're not ignorant concerning our people. Okay, so here's the dark origins of so-called Valentine's Day, right? That's why we got the title, what it is. Okay, Valentine's Day is a time to celebrate romance and love and kissy face fealty. But the origins of this festival of candy and cupids are actually dark, bloody, and a bit muddled. Though no one has pinpointed the exact origin of the holiday, one place to start is ancient Rome, because that was the time of the Roman Empire, where if you were a Christian, meaning you were an Israelite in the truth, openly, you were put to death, tortured, fed to wild lions and beasts. So we're going to go into what this day goes into. It's nothing but more demons. From February 13th to February 15th. That's why Valentine's Day is on the 14th. The Romans celebrated the feast of Lupercalia. Now, if you look up Lupercalia, okay, we're going to pull this up. Okay, so I can close out of this. So this was a deity that was worshipped by the Romans. And it goes back to the word wolf. All right. It goes back to the word wolf when you look it up. Lupus. All right. This is the Capuchin wolf, where, according to the so-called white man, and nobody, I don't even know how people still can take this serious. The so-called white man's kingdom of Rome was founded by Remus and Romulus. Okay, Remus and Romulus were brothers, and they were nursed by the Capuchin wolf. And then Romulus took over, and then he conquered Rome, founded it on 7 hills, and from thence you have the Roman kingdom, then the Roman Republic, and then it transitioned to the Roman Empire. So it goes into the worship of the history of the so-called white man's myth and lies, right? We know the so-called white man killed the Japhites to get that land. He killed the true Umbrians, right? He killed the Etruscans, the Samnites, and all of these ancient Etruscan tribes and civilizations that were of Japhetic roots to get that land. But Lupercalia is about the worship of his so-called gods and his history. Okay, so let's go back to this. Where we at? Okay, so the Romans celebrated the feast of Lupercalia. The men sacrificed a goat and a dog, then whipped women with the hides of the animals they had just slain. You see that? So if you was a woman out there, all hell was breaking loose, man. That's what that image shows. What? Look at this. They will offer the goat. They will run around naked with the goat skin, and they'll offer up a dog to this so-called demonic, to the spiritual demon Satan. And then they will run around naked, in the name of love, and whip women, man, and beat them. Then the men will pop each other. Then they'll pop the women, man. On Valentine's Day, in the name of Cupid, the so-called god of confusion and forceful love. But Jake, no, I want to celebrate Valentine's Day. I want this. This is about love. It's about romance. You don't know what's going on, man. You're living a great war of ignorance. I tell you that in Wisdom of Solomon, I believe the 15th chapter, man. All right, let me get that real quick. Then I want to go back to that article. Right, our brothers are living, and our sisters, because they love. I'm glad to believe Eve. You're into this day more than Jake, man. Right, and it could be even. That's my opinion. This it's like that's the 14th chapter. Okay, Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 14. Jake and Eve, you're both into this thing, man. You're both into this thing. This Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 14 and 22. Moreover, this was not enough for them, that they erred in the knowledge of the Most High. But whereas they lived in the great war of ignorance, those so great plagues called they peace. This is a great war of ignorance, man. Right? It's a battle to acquire knowledge and understanding. You're fighting against the Most High, and you're diving into all types of wickedness, man. So our people are living a great war of ignorance, not knowing what they're really into. Look at this madness. Right? See that? Lupercalia. All of the men going around grabbing up women, man. Just grabbing them up and doing whatever they want to do. And you know where this comes from ultimately, which they may not tell you. The so-called white man's origin starts with they call and I don't want to throw the word out there, but when you go through history, it starts with an R and it ends in an E and has an A and a P in between it. And it rhymes with grape, right? So this is let's see if I can pull this. Okay, this is the grape of the Sabine woman. Now, when a so-called white man founded Rome, being nursed by the wolf, that's where you get the word Lupercalia. Ultimately goes back to a lupus. It goes back to the word wolf. Because as they were founded by the wolf, they would go and grab up these women, man. These Japhites women. They were the Sabines, the remnant of the Japhites before they were exiled or killed off. The grape of the Sabine woman, also known as the abduction of the Sabine woman or the kidnapping of the Sabine woman, was an incident. They call it an incident, right? In Roman mythology, now it's a myth, in which the men of Rome committed a mass abduction of young women. They do that now. It's not, how is that a myth? The so-called white man is still doing mass abductions of women from the other cities in the region, right? So that's what they were doing in Lupercalia. They were reliving their origins. See that? And that was that artwork right there, where they just go and grab up the women. Look at that. And they glorified it, man. You got one man naked on top of another man naked, grabbing up a woman. So you got to know what you're really getting involved with, man, when you're into these days. You're into all these wicked days and madness. So let's go back to this. Okay, so they sacrificed the goat and the dog, and then whipped the women with the hides of the animals they had just slain. The Roman romantics were drunk. They were naked. It's a freaky day. Noel Linsky, now a religious studies professor at Yale University told NPR in 2011. Young women would line up for the men to hit them, Linsky said. They believed this would make them fertile. So it's just madness. The brutal feat included a matchmaking lottery. And guess what? That was in the name of Cupid. Okay. A matchmaking lottery in which young men drew the names of women from a jar. The couple would then be coupled. It's that tender spirit for the duration of the festival. See that? See how they said this? It says the couple would then be coupled up, right? We know what's really going on. For the duration of the festival or longer if the match was right. The ancient Romans may also be responsible for the name of our modern day of love. Emperor Claudius II executed two men, both named Valentine on February 14th of different years in the 3rd century. Their martyrdom was honored by the Catholic Church with the celebration of St. Valentine's Day, right? With the origin of St. Valentine's Day. So that's what the so-called white man's into, all right? Now, when you look up this drawing right here, it says, a drawing depicts the death of St. Valentine. One of them anyway, because it was two of them. Sometimes they have a hard time in history pinpointing which one it actually was. The Romans executed two men by that name on February 14th of different years in the 3rd century. Because what was going on during the time of the 3rd century? During the time of the 3rd century, you had a massive persecution of the Israelites. All right. So here's and we've covered this in time past. Persecution of the Christians during the Roman Empire. You had the Neronian persecution, right? Around 50 to 70 AD, 53 to 70 AD, or 54, Salakia. Then you had the Diocletian persecution that came about 200 years after that. Those are the two main persecutions of the Roman Empire, predominantly West. See that? So the Augustan Diocletian began the Diocletian persecution. Okay, so the Diocletian persecution and other persecutions led to the death of a lot of our forefathers, man. Because you couldn't openly be known to serve Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. Why do you think Yahushai said what he said, even in the time of the Flavian dynasty and Diocletian and Vespasian and Titus? Right? This is Revelation chapter 2 and 13. That's why you got to go into that history. Revelation 2 and 13. I know thy works, and where thou dwellest, even where Satan's seat is. This Pergamos, right? In modern day Turkey, Asia Minor. And thou holdest fast my name, and hast not denied my faith. Even in those days wherein Antipas was my faithful martyr, who was slain among you, where Satan dwelleth. So Antipas was the bishop of Pergamos. He was a brother, right? A high and mighty man, and he got put to death for not bowing down to the Roman Empire. St. Valentine was another martyr, along with hundreds and hundreds of other men that were put to death in the name of the truth. So Antipas, it means like the Father, a Christian of Pergamos who suffered martyrdom. All right. And when you go into how this man was put to death, he was put to death in a gruesome way. They put him in a brazen bull, and they lit the bull that was made of brass, and he was burned alive or heated up like you were inside of an oven. That's how Antipas was put to death. He was a faithful martyr. And you have many men that died for the truth, man. Martyrdom is something that's in this thing, right? That's what this truth entails. Is every brother going to be martyred? No, right? But if that's your lot, guess what? That's your lot. And you have to be willing and rather understand first that you may have to die for this truth. Yeah, brother, I don't want to die for this. It's an honorable thing to die for Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. Did not Yahushai die for you? It's the book of Revelation chapter 6. right? And verse 9. And when he had opened the fifth seal, I saw under the altar the souls of them that were slain for the word of the Most High and for the testimony which they held. So certain men are going to be killed for believing in this truth, man, for openly confessing that they're Israelites, for calling upon Yahweh, for calling upon Yahweh Shai. See, things right now are easy. You can make a post on Facebook, you can tweet, you can go on Instagram, you can go on YouTube, it's on social media. It's an easy thing to profess this truth and to be able to proclaim it publicly, right? And publish the name of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. But that's going to slowly tighten up more and more and more as the defamation of the ministry increases, as this talk of so-called hate speech and misinformation and disinformation and all types of madness that Esau has through a sorcery put out there, man, to bewitch the people. As that increases, you being able to push this word on a high level is going to decrease. So John actually he may have saw St. Valentine in the future. He may have saw us, other men, other apostles. He may have saw one of us during this time. So what did these souls say when they were put to death for the word of the Most High? It reads, and they cried with a loud voice, saying, how long, O Lord, holy and true, dost thou not judge and avenge our blood on them that dwell on the earth? So they're complaining to the Most High. Lord, hey, get this man, kill that Edomite, man. He slew me, and I didn't do nothing wrong. I was serving you unto death. I didn't bow down to the beast. I didn't serve his gods. Lord, get him. It's him right there. That Edomite. Avenge us. So they're going to be complaining. And all praises to the Most High that the Lord is going to have that thing happen. And it allows us to see what goes on in the third heaven when innocent blood is shed by the enemy. Reading on. And white robes were given unto every one of them. And it was said unto them that they should rest yet for a little season, until their fellow servants also and their brethren should be killed as they were, should be fulfilled. So there's a set number of men that have to die for the truth. Once that number, once you hit that number, or the Most High hits that number, then he's going to sing Yahweh Shai to deliver us. Let's go to Revelation 20 and 4. Now let's see how much time I got. Okay, so this Revelation 20 and 4. And I saw thrones, and they sat upon them, and judgment was given unto them. And I saw the souls of them that were beheaded. So now the death is explained. It's a beheading. Rather, Esau has an electronic guillotine. They got the old guillotine that kind of come down at an angle, and Esau got all types of stuff, man. But nevertheless, John saw the souls of them that were beheaded for the witness of Yahweh Shai and for the word of the Most High, and which had not worshipped the beast. The beast is America, right? Neither his image. His image is this entire revived Roman system of sin. Neither had received this mark in their upon, right? It's like upon their foreheads or in their hands. Meaning you didn't accept the so-called white man's idolatry, didn't accept his philosophies, you didn't accept his doctrines, even until the time of the end of the world. Even when you had a chance to live a little longer, you said, no, I will not accept your system. That's what it means, upon your forehead or in your hands, meaning you're not going to do them. All right. And they lived and reigned with Hamashiach 1,000 years. Right. So St. Valentine is one of those men. So let's go back to this. So here's we read this. Okay, so let me read this again. The ancient Romans may also be responsible for the name of our modern day of love. Emperor Claudius II executed 2 men, both named Valentine, on February 14th of different years in the 3rd century. Their martyrdom was honored by the Catholic Church with the celebration of St. Valentine. And here's another thing with Lupercalia, right? Just to show you what that day goes into. Lupercalia, ancient Roman festival that was conducted annually on February 15th under the superintendence of a corporation of priests. So they had nothing but priests out there, wizards, witches, warlocks, called Lupercalia. The origins of the festival are obscure, although the likely derivation of its name from lupus, meaning wolf, has variously suggested connection with the ancient city who protected herds from wolves and with the legendary she-wolf who nursed Remus and Romulus. As a fertility rite, the festival is also associated with the god Faunus. All right, so I'm not going to read this whole thing, but I'm going to just touch up, a little bit. You can see it began with the sacrifice of a goat and a dog. All right. It reads, which two of the Lupercalia, those are the priests, were led to the altar. Their foreheads were touched with the bloody knife, and the blood was wiped off with wool dipped in milk. That's witchcraft. So they put those demons in their mind. They take that bloody knife, they put it on their forehead, and them spirits enter into their mind so they can conduct the ceremony. Right? So there's a lot of physical gestures to conjure up spirits, man. There's this old clip of like celebrities who confess that they deal with like signs and stuff to conjure up demons, man. Right? To open up portals, for lack of better terms, and have them spirits come inside of them. It reads, the ritual required that the two young men laugh. So that's sick. Look at that. So now they have to laugh. That's demonic. The sacrificial feast followed, after which the Lupercalia cut thongs from the skins of the sacrificed animals and ran in two bands around the Palatine Hill, striking with the thongs at any woman who came near them. A blow from the thong was supposed to render a woman fertile. Okay, they banned it. So they banned Valentine's Day back in 494. All right, tradition holds that he appropriated the form of the rite as the Feast of Purification. So, they pretty much intertwined Lupercalia, and they tried to make it holy, just like they did with so-called Easter. So tradition holds that he appropriated the form of the rite as the Feast of the Purification, celebrated on February 2nd. That's your modern-day Groundhog's Day. Modern Jakes, you're still mad at the groundhog, right? Oh, he didn't see a shadow. He saw a shadow. Oh, he always does this, right? That's madness. It's no, well, he always does this, right? He has no influence on Yahuwah Bashem Yahushai, man. Right? But the point of the matter is, but it is likely that the Christian feast was established in the previous century. It also has been alternately suggested that Pope Gelasius I replaced Lupercalia with St. Valentine's Day, celebrated on February 14th. But the origin of that holiday was likely much later. So regardless of the shift in dates, it's the exact same thing. They took Lupercalia and they made it so-called Valentine's Day. So when you celebrate this day, you celebrate wicked priests, witches, warlocks, sorcery, rebellion, idolatry. Don't forget Pederasty, man-boy love, the so-called god Eros, their Roman version Cupid, lust, concupiscence, adultery, forcing yourself on people, abominable feast, idolatries, madness, vanities. So brothers, they got to come out of this system, man. Let's go to Revelation chapter 18. Let's get the classic, right? Revelation chapter 18. The Lord said, come out of her, right? Revelation 18:4. And I heard another voice from heaven saying, come out of her, my people. They be not partakers of her sins, and they receive not of her plagues. For her sins have reached unto heaven, and God hath remembered her iniquities. Right? So we're literally going to get beamed about this place, but also Yahweh Bashim Yahushua said, hey, separate from this system, man. Right? Come out of her, man. Come out of Valentine's Day. Come out of what's next? So-called St. Patrick's Day. Then they got Easter Sunday after that. Right? Then they got Flag Day and Memorial Day, and then July 4th. So we have to go into the origins of these days so our people can be well equipped with wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, and know what the will of the Most High is, man. Right? The Lord said, come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and they have received not of her plagues, for her sins have reached unto heaven, and the Most High hath remembered her iniquities. Right? Let's go to 1 Thessalonians, chapter 4. Right? Let me see what else I have real quick. Oh, man, I had to go into these toxic, right? I've been watching, before I get that precept, Esau has been, there's been a lot of quote-unquote accidental spills of hazardous material, right? I forgot I had to go into this, so I want to kind of shift gears a little bit. Still in the spirit of coming out of the world, because the so-called white man, he's doing all of these damn chemical spills, man. They say over 2,000 pounds of nitric acid is leaking, right? And toxic chemicals are in the air. Now, that just happened in Arizona, Tuscan, Arizona. You can see the footage right here on the bottom of your screen. See that? So this is happening back to back to back. All of a sudden, stuff is flipping over and toxic gas is being dispersed throughout the air. All of a damn sudden, man. This devil, like I said, he's playing different cards. He did one with the thing they put in your arm. He did that for about 2 years. Then he did one with the monkeys, right? And he tried to put that disease out there, you know. Then he has the distraction with the war in Ukraine. Then he's playing his UFO card. We're shooting UFOs down. Then he's playing his Chinese balloon card. Now he was burning food distribution plants, man, and food distribution facilities and egg farms, and doing that. Now he's sending toxic gas in the air. Now you can say, well, that's an accident, right? Well, first of all, there are spirits created for vengeance. And people, hey, they gonna breathe that stuff in, man. If you're not under the protection of the Most High, you're gonna be caught out there breathing in God knows what, man. Choking up and coughing up a lung, a literal lung. Right? Let's go to Sirach chapter 39. Right? We know you devils, man. Right? You always got something up your sleeve. This is Ecclesiasticus chapter 29 and 28. There be spirits that are created for vengeance, which in their fury lay on sore strokes. And the time of destruction, they pour out their force and appease the wrath of him that made them. So the Most High is putting these spirits of vengeance on the earth. And he's mainly using Esau to destroy himself. You understand? To break this world down. For a wicked Jake to get caught in that thing. Fire and hell, famine and death, all these were created for vengeance. Teeth of wild beasts and scorpions, serpents, and a sword, punishing the wicked to destruction. So these are all spirits on the earth. Earthquakes, spirits of toxic gas, and people getting flipped over, and madness and confusion and war and more rumors of wars. These are spirits sent by Yahweh Bashim Yahushua on the earth, man. Why? Because man has to be rewarded according to their evil ways. So that's going on in Tuscan, Arizona. You had another one going on. Let's see, from okay, that's not the one. I had one of these pulled up. Okay, you had one in Houston, right? You had one that happened in Houston. Another train derailed in Houston, and toxic gas went up on that one. You have one in Arizona. All right. Texas train derailment occurs just after Ohio disaster. And it seems as though that all these derailments and flipping over trucks and trains, they're releasing toxic chemicals into the air. Right? Then you had, okay, we went into that. Well, we want to go into that. That's how much people spend on Valentine's Day. A lot of money, if you want to know. Then in Ohio River drinking water, toxic chemical spill raises impact concerns. And nobody's really talking about this on Fox News or CNN. People's drinking water are going to be jammed up. Esau has these controlled problems to come out with some type of solution. They see the animals are dying at a phenomenon there. People are saying, look, if you were out here, you would see all of the animals that are dying with that toxic gas. Man, people are crying, they're suing, they're itching, they're burning. Look at this. See that? The Most High did that, man. When you read Revelation chapter 14 and 18, there's an actual angel that has power over fire. You don't bring that area in not under the protection of the Most High. That stuff is going to affect you, and you're going to be caught out there. So Esau's into his sorcery. He has all these tricks up his sleeve. The Lord said the thoughts of them is deep. So there's a lot of evil on the earth, but we're going to be steadfast. Make sure we're repenting, coming back to Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, keeping the law, statutes, and the commandments, and moving in the faith of the Most High. But with that, we're going to close up, giving, of course, all honor and glory to Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, Most High willing you were edified. Kwam Yashala. Shalom.